Hey everybody, Professor Snart checking in again for our online 1102 course. Hopefully everything is going well and you had a good long Labor Day weekend. Probably busy because of the way our due dates ended up falling, but as I'd mentioned before, it's really better for us to get through some of these earlier units as quickly as possible so that we have more time to do the units a little bit later in the course where you're doing much more substantial writing projects. So again, you end up having to work probably a little bit on the weekend, but all in an effort to really manage our time a little more efficiently and effectively as we look a little further on in our course. Anyway, which we can do right now. So I'm looking at our due dates. We've now passed through units 1 and 2, and now we move on to unit 3, the shape of an essay. So you'll notice that we're really more getting into the content of our course specifically here in terms of a focus on composition. Rather than just introductions or sort of general questions about our content area. So due Thursday, September 4th, and again, a little more involved unit here, so we'll walk through a little bit of it. So the focus is managing the general and the specific, and one of the things that, that I really notice as a teacher of writing is that you can have an essay that is grammatically correct, sort of the mechanical sentence level things are all good, but it's not an A-level paper unless it manages the general and the specific effectively. So this is one of those units that is really like a core concept for us to be learning. So it's really important to think about this unit as you do it, but also when you're writing those essays, how can you make sure that those essays reflect that you really understand this basic core concept. Okay, so we're talking about the shape of an essay or paragraph, the first folder here, and this is mostly the, I guess you could call it the lecture piece or the content piece of the unit. There's a really nice video to watch that kind of introduces the concept of managing the general and the specific, and how that looks in terms of an essay. This is our little stick figure here that we'll use to visualize the concept. It's then broken down more or less the same way, but just with a static image here, a little description of what's going on. So it's a lot of the same information, but delivered in a couple of different formats. There's some further examples of what it might look like, and obviously you're not reading it now as you're watching this, but looking through it on your own time. And remember, it's really important not just to move through a unit like this once, but let's say we come up to the first essay assignment, to maybe refer back to the unit to make sure that again this core concept is one that your writing is reflecting your understanding of, so I can see that you get it and you can apply the idea. So as always, don't forget that you're just because you get through the content in this folder, we're not done the unit yet. So we'll look at a little MLA citation stuff and then a quiz. This piece directs you, instead of to material within the unit here itself, to this general MLA citation resource that we have in our course. Again, important that you don't just do this as part of this unit only, but refer back to it throughout the course. MLA citation and anything research related is really, really important for our course, because English 1102 it's often called the research course. So things like citation, getting a work cited correct, doing the right kinds of, or finding the right kinds of sources, all of that stuff takes on really kind of heightened importance in our context. Again, not because I think it's the most important thing in the world, but because for our particular course, it's really, really important that you show me that you can do this basic stuff correctly. You can cite correctly, you can produce a work cited correctly, and then you're finding the right kinds of sources. And obviously we're walking through, the in-text part of that right here. Finding sources is something that we'll cover. So some of the stuff we haven't gotten to yet, so it's not like you're supposed to know it already. But this is the sort of material that, again, there's a little quiz here, but the point value is pretty low. Obviously getting it right matters, not just for the quiz, but really for the big writing assignments that we do. That's where the points for those writing assignments come from, is getting this kind of stuff correct. As always, if you have questions about any of this, you can be in touch with me as you work through it, but we'll go back to our unit folders here. And then the assignment you'll find down in the paragraph assignment. And one of the things that I can't force you to do, but I can only warn you not to do, is skip through what you might call the content piece of it and get right to the assignment. You really have to work through the content for the assignment to make any sense. And so this is our first, I would say, formal writing assignment, even though it's very limited in scope. So of course what I'm looking for in this assignment is the application of that shape of a paragraph kind of idea that's talked about in that earlier folder. So that's again why you really need to do the content piece before you can go on to this, the assessment piece. So I'm asking you to read a short story from our textbook called Flight Patterns. It's fairly interesting and very sort of naturalistic or realistic, so it's not, you know, experimental in any way. It's fairly easy to read. The characters are pretty interesting and probably pretty relatable, I think, too, in a number of different ways. There's a little quiz on the reading, which, you know, is helpful just to force you to read it, but also might draw your attention to some particularly important details as well. And then the major assignment, a paragraph assignment. So it's done through a discussion board. So you will be ultimately responding to other student posts. Again, make sure that you're not forgetting this as part of our discussion board work. And you can read it closely here, so I'm not going to go through every detail, but basically you're writing a kind of character analysis paragraph. You're making one limited statement about the main character from the work in terms of, you know, what type of person he is. And I mean, certainly there's answers that are maybe debatable, but it really is not, the grading here is not about did you get a correct answer or the correct answer, as though there's only one or two things you can say about the character. If you can back it up with quotation from the text, then you could almost say anything. You think the character is courageous, is not courageous, is anxious, is whatever. There's almost nothing wrong to say unless you end up making a statement that you really can't support with details from the text. So what you're going to produce then is a paragraph that will sort of enact the shape of the paragraph idea in terms of starting with a relatively general topic, some statement of character about this particular guy in the story, and then refining that, providing a level of detail to support, which is the narrow part of the stick figure that you'll see explained in the video, in the unit itself, and then some form of brief conclusion or transition. So again, I'm looking for the application of that idea, and then also correct citation. Citation in this case is pretty easy. We know the author last name, and we also have page numbers in our book. So you're just following, you know, in some ways the simplest kind of example in terms of citation. And again, notice how everything kind of builds in terms of the content that you cover to what I'm looking for in that paragraph. So the expectation should be pretty clear. There's nothing mysterious or secret or whatever that I'm hoping that you just guess and get correctly. Again, how to cite in text is provided right here. There's numerous examples, and it's fairly easy for us because we have those page numbers. So you want to get this formatting correct, know when to use the author last name, when not to. You're always introducing quotations. You're not just starting a sentence or providing a sentence that's just quotation. You need to integrate quotation smoothly. Again, all stuff that's discussed within the unit itself. Okay, so again, really our first, I would say, fundamental content unit that we get to. You have a couple of days to work on it, but that due date is coming up pretty soon. For Unit 3 is Thursday, September 4th. If you haven't sort of gotten used to the online environment yet, one of the things to think about is really how you manage your time more generally. Is this the kind of thing that you want to go in and block out an hour or two, including reading for the story, and just try to do it all at once? Or is it more realistic to block your time a little bit differently? So maybe you work through one of the folders, you do some of the quizzes, you read the story at a different time, and then you write the paragraph. My recommendation is to chunk your time so you're not trying to do all of it at once. It just gets to be overwhelming and you sort of rush yourself to get through it and get it over with. And you don't end up doing particularly good work necessarily or really understanding the concepts because you're trying to work so quickly. So if you can chunk the time out and you know sort of what the unit looks like and what it's going to ask of you, you can do it a little bit at a time, so it's not all at once. But as always, you have to manage your time effectively in a way that, that makes sense for you and your particular schedule. All right, so be sure you're checking your grades then to see that you've completed all the assigned work, and if you lost points, that you understand why. If you have questions, you can always contact me. And again, if you have questions about our present unit or about sort of the course globally, by all means be in touch with me. I guess one last thing to mention sort of along those lines is if you do notice what's clearly just a mistake in the course, the link doesn't work, there's reference to like a video or a PowerPoint or a something in that content clearly isn't displaying properly, if there's just a typo, or if I've accidentally said it's like spring 2014 instead of fall, something like that, let me know and I'll try to fix it right away. We don't want that kind of stuff, like just little mechanical problems getting in the way of obviously the proper functioning of the course as a whole. All right, so be in touch with me with questions big or small, and I will talk with everybody soon.